Everybody, man, oh man, the savage. I got a good-looking lady on the channel today. Y'all gonna be blown out of the water. Watch.
I
Oh
hope
my
so.
God, I'm so happy she on the channel. It's unbelievable. Well, no, it's not no more. It ain't unbelievable no more. Cause see what happens is, check it out, everybody. She can't hear me. They vet me. They say, who is this guy? They vet me, and then because of what I have done so far, and I passed the vetting. I've been vetted, and I'm a vetter or something like that. And so here we go. Because what's happening in this occasion, this lady does this Black history often, probably every day, in some capacity. And her mission, I'm speaking for her only in this regard, I'm assuming is to let you know the stories. Watch out. So here we are. And let me say this. My name is Anthony Brogdon. I'm an ordinary guy trying to do something extraordinary. And I can feel it with my crowd. I can feel it with the messages I get from you, my viewers. And this has happened a little bit more often, just here in my town, Detroit. Though I haven't been anywhere just yet, but I'm going places. People say, "Man, I'm watching you, man," and I've had a couple strangers come up to me and say, "Man, are you the guy on the show?" I said, "What? Yeah." I mean, I'm like, "Yo, that's me." She said, "Yeah, I had a guy and one lady do it and a guy do it." He said, "Man, I'm subscribed to your show." I said, "Woo wee," where we give it to you straight, no chaser, to intoxicate your mind with this Black history. So if you've heard people say, well, Black folks don't keep the history alive, what have you, or the Black history is not kept alive, please stop them in their tracks and just tell them to go to Strong Inspirations. Stop them in the tracks. So hit the subscribe button, everybody. My numbers is up. I was super excited. I think I had 75 subscribers last night. I think that's huge. And it's free to subscribe. Don't ask no information. Hit the like button on this video. You're going to like this lady a lot. That I will guarantee you. Watch out. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. And I try to do 3, 4 of them a week. I stagger them, though. It ain't every day. It ain't every other day. It could be a day here and a day there. Kind of hit my heart. Say, "Ooh, I got some Black history I want to share with these people." And so the notification bells let you know that there's something new on Strong Inspiration. And then do this, my friend. Tell somebody about Strong Inspiration. Don't be sitting in the barbershop, in the beauty salon, and you spewing all this knowledge. Hey man, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? And you got it on the channel. And you won't tell them where you got it. And I don't say this often, but I think I'm going to say it probably a little more often now. And, because you're watching this for free, I don't mind if you send me a donation. I don't care how much it is. You know how the world goes. It adds up, so to speak. So all that is on my website, businessintheblack.net. Just by chance, my guest is out of that Maryland area. Did you see the video I got with the lady who talks about Black folks in that neighborhood out of the DC area, the Anacostia district? Watch that video. It's pretty amazing because one of our national leaders, Frederick Douglass, got a house on top of a hill over there. Mm-hmm. And check it out. I've been to the house. It ain't no little itty bitty house. This thing, in layman's terms, is what you call a mansion. Sitting up on top of the hill, looking over the Capitol and all that other stuff in the Black neighborhood. Frederick Douglass did that. Him and his wife, and we ain't going into that dynamic. There's a story there. I got his 3-time great-grandson on the channel, Kenneth Morris Jr. My man kind of looked like Frederick and still got hair. He an older guy, he got a head full of hair. I said, man, if you let it go, wow, you can be Frederick Douglass. Watch that video. And I got several on Frederick Douglass on the channel. I got Harriet Tubman. Did you know him and Frederick and Harriet grew up in the same area? Maybe one or two plantations over was Harriet Tubman. I got a guy on the channel. He does tours down in that area. And he said that's part of what he tells. He said Frederick was like, they didn't know each other, different timelines and stuff like that. Well, maybe they did know each other. I don't know. But I mean, nonetheless, they're same district in that Maryland area is where all that comes from. How about this one? I'm gonna stay with Maryland because I got a bunch of them all over the world, but I got Maryland is a hot spot. Did you know that there was a night where 70 slaves, man, I can't think of the name of this, but check it out. 70 slaves, they chartered a boat, got a bunch of help from the abolitionists and whatnot, chartered a boat, got on the boat, and it did not get away because the winds was not in their favor. So they sitting out in the water, quiet, and then the enslavers said, "Hey, man, my slave didn't come home last night. My slave didn't come home." And then they all gathered the information, said, "Man, well, they all might be trying to escape." And then they ran into a guy, black dude, from what the lady tells me, and the black brother said, "Hey, man, I know what happened. Y'all cut me a break. I can give you the news." Gave him the news, and they sitting out there in the water. So the next day, the winds picked up. They off and running, but didn't get far enough and got caught. And the captain of the ship, see now, because people do things if there's money involved, the captain of the ship was a white guy. And he like, yo, I help y'all escape for the right price. And they put him in prison for this. Watch that video. We jamming. How about this? And I know my guest, she busy, so I can't talk long to y'all. But let me say this. Y'all familiar with this September 6th, insurrection, as they call it, takeover of the government, what have you. Well, during the Civil War, the Confederates got close to the Capitol. And there was a fort that saved the Capitol. All right, but check this out. You know how we do. There was some black soldiers in that fort, and they got to shooting at them dudes, and them cats ran. They could have took over Washington, D.C. There's a video on that. Oh, my friends, I'm not playing with y'all. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to find the people like this lady, and you're going to like her a lot, and let them tell the stories. I just come up with, hopefully, intelligent questions. I hope you might, and you can't ask them all. And then check it out. And I say this to my guests, a lot of times. Hey, I know you know more than what I give you. We doing this hour, so you want to come back. You professors and stuff like that. Like this lady, she know more than an hour. Come back anytime. Come on, let's get it all out there for the people to know it. So everybody, that's what's happening here. Strong Inspirations. We jamming. And I'm enjoying this a lot. I've learned a lot. We are over 400 videos to date. I've learned a lot doing this, more than I had ever known. But I've been liking Black history for a long time. I'm a filmmaker, everybody. I did this documentary called Business in the Black. And what happened was I didn't know that there were slaves who owned businesses. I don't know. I was a decent student in school. I A, B. I might throw a C in on you every now and then, But I guess I perked up, or maybe I didn't perk up when they had that history class and they talked about slaves who owned business. But I really think they didn't tell that story. That would have inspired me a whole lot. And so once I found out, I put it in the documentary. It's 75 minutes long. It's business in the black, and it's much more than that. But just use that as the key point of why you might want to watch this. It's streaming on Amazon. And then I went another step further and I wrote a book about it. Book is good. I had a lot of orders last night. And every 10th book I sell, I donate one to a school. Because, see, my mission is to get this out there. My reward is when you say, I learned something from you today. I could take that to my creditors. You see what I'm saying? So buy your copy of this book. It's very reasonably priced. Buy a few copies. Because every 10th one I sell, I donate to a school. And it's like the movie, but it's more thorough. How about this? In regards to Maryland, there was a thing called freedom suits, lawsuits, where slaves sued for their freedom. It would probably make other parts, but I know in Maryland, I got a guy on the channel, he talks about that. And we talk about it in the book as one of the many ways that slaves gained their freedom. It wasn't always running, and it wasn't always just you gave it to us. Some of it was they bought it, they sued for it, so on and so forth. So get you a copy of my book, please. And my hands are good, so I autograph it for you. And that might mean something one day. Watch out. I keep doing this. And everything that I do is on my website, businessintheblack.net. And the reason, check this out. When you're in business, where do you want to be? It's either the black or red. And you don't want to be in the red. You want to be in the black, which means you're profitable. And so that's the name of the website. Go ahead and get those two. Now you hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I wish my middle name was strong. I've been saying strong a long time, which defines this guest today, as in strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the lady today. She's a strong sister. They all admire her out of her community for what she's doing. Watch out. Come on, introduce yourself. Thank you for being on Strong Inspirations.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to sit with you and chat today. My name is Sandy Williams. I would have worn my shirt. Normally it says straight out of Sandy Spring, but I am the co-director now. I was the director of the Sandy Spring Slave Museum and African Art Gallery in historic Sandy Spring, Maryland. We are like literally situated between DC and Baltimore, and I would say Annapolis. We're in the triangle, which was strategic. The community, I just taking it back historically, was originally Piscataway land. I'm going to make sure that we pay homage to our Native American indigenous people. But the Quakers came in up to the Chesapeake most of them from Barbados area, from the eastern shore of Maryland. They came up through the Chesapeake, through St. Mary's City, and looking for fertile land to grow tobacco. And they ended up in the Sandy Spring area here in Montgomery County, Maryland. The first plantation that they settled was 1728, which now gives the town of Sandy Spring its official founding, right? And the first plantation was called Charlie Forest, which is situated on Brook Road, which is the same road that the Slave Museum sits on today.
Oh my God! Okay, yes. But hold on, you jamming, and but I gotta divert just a second here. Don't forget any of that, and we're gonna pick that up because that's pretty good stuff. But I gotta ask about you because my guests get to know. I mean, my viewers get to know my guests, and so on and so forth. So where were you born and raised? May I ask that?
I was officially, I'm going to say, as we say here, we always say what hospital we were born in. I was born in Montgomery General Hospital right here in Albany, Maryland, which is 3 miles west of Sandy Spring. Okay. And Montgomery General, I was born in a time where I would tell my siblings it didn't happen to me, but when the Black babies were born in the basement. So I was born in 1967.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was raised right in Sandy Spring.
Okay. Were you in the Black neighborhood? Kind of mixed neighborhood? How did that go?
So when the Quakers in the area decided that they had an anti-slavery sentiment around Revolutionary wartime, so the Quakers began freeing their enslaved people between 1790 and 1810. So people continue to work and live on Quaker farms, but they earn wages. And then they, by 1830, we see people starting to buy land. So my community, all of Brook Road, all of Norwood Road, and all of Channing Mill Road was basically all Black owned property. And you know how things go, right? Gentrification.
Yeah.
The community's been changing for about the last 30 years, but yeah, definitely.
Did Black kids and white kids go to your grade school, or you just all Black pretty much?
No, when I came along, everything was fully integrated. So I started kindergarten with everybody. We all went to school together.
Let's go back a little bit further. Do you know the plantation in your family?
So, my third great grandfather was born enslaved, and he bought his freedom. But the plantation that he was enslaved on, as well as his mother, who was mixed race, and he was his father was on it as well. Prior to the Civil War, he actually bought the farm that he was a slave on.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. That's good stuff there. We got to stay on that. Okay, so where's that plantation at? Let's see that one. Do you know? Did you say that?
It's right here in Montgomery County, where, like I said, it is about 5 miles north of Sandy Spring, in a little town called Unity. If anybody is in the area, if they've ever traveled north on Georgia Avenue coming out of DC and going through Olney, where Georgia Avenue then turns into 97, which goes up into the country, you get to a little area called Sunshine. There's a crossroads of 97 and 650, which goes south. It is New Hampshire Avenue. It's now called, the area is called Patuxent River State Park, because the state bought the land in the late 60s and 70s, started buying up farmland for state parks. But the house that his father built, which was in 1790, and then when he bought the 260-acre farm, he lived in a house. The house is still there.
The house really?
House is still there.
I mean, how do you know this story? Who told you this? You did the research? Did it pass down through the family? What have you?
So once he bought that farm, he started selling land so other Blacks could have land, and he was a wonderful farmer. So a community cropped up, and we called the community Howard Chapel. In 1880, he built a school, and it had a church. So my grandfather actually grew up there. So my mother and her sisters, they always told us about going to Howard Chapel to visit the grandmother, and going to Howard Chapel when the church was still there, and the school. My grandfather went to school there. So I've always known about it, and now I go there quite often, and I'm working with the state. Well, here we go, because it's now state parkland. So I'm working with the state on a project to preserve the history. So they're stabilizing that house, which was built in 1790, and then his son built the house as well, and they are preserving the son's house and doing historical and signage, and making sure that the history stays, because they had no idea what they had until we contacted them and said, let's take a walk. And we walked in and told them the history, because and I'm gonna drop something else on you and see if you can pick it up. My great grandmother, which is my third great grandfather's daughter, named Martha, she married a young man out of Baltimore named John Henry Murphy, and in 1892 they founded the Afro-American newspaper.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with the paper. Yeah. Okay, but let's go back to say, how did he get the money to buy his freedom? Do you know that?
Oh yeah. So something you referred to about Black business. So he was given land to farm. His slave owning father gave him a tract of land, and when he went to Baltimore to sell the produce from the farm, he was also able to sell what he grew, and he was able to earn money and keep his money. And then he bought his freedom, and then he bought his wife's freedom, and then the wife bought the children's freedom.
So at some point, okay, he being free and the wife being enslaved in the same union and all that kind of dynamic. That
Oh yeah, it definitely was interesting dynamic, and for what I found out is, sometimes when people got their freedom, they purchased family members, and part of purchasing was also protection. So if I had papers on my family members, they couldn't be sold. They couldn't be.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
love it.
sometimes it was protection as well, and even the bill of sale, when she bought the children, she had to own her children until the girls were 18, the boys were 21.
Hold on, what does that mean?
That means that she owned them, and when they turned a certain age, and they were free. So that was the condition of the bill of sale. There happened to be a lot. So the main missions were interesting papers. If you ever get a chance to read a main mission when someone grants someone their freedom, it's quite interesting.
So you've seen those papers on him?
Yeah, I have my third great grandfather's main mission papers. We have copies at the museum, and we have bill of sale
Really?
for the children as well.
How much did he have to pay? Was there amount on the papers?
Yeah, so he paid $3,000 for his freedom, and then it was crazy. He paid so much for his freedom, and then they paid 20. I think it was like $25 a piece for the children. The children were young. That was interesting, and so such an interesting price range.
Yeah, sure. Now, the one thing that people get out of this is the enslaver just set whatever price he want. There is no set price on buying your freedom.
To set the price and change it. That's what happened to Josiah Henson. They agreed on a price, and once Josiah Henson earned the money, it was increased, which eventually made him decide to escape.
Yeah. And I got a fact in my book where the guy he paid whatever the price was, and some of it included give me a horse, I think is what it was. I want so much money and give me a horse. The guy did that, and the guy did not set him free. And then the guy sued him in court and won in court.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and suing in court, it depends on where you were, whether or not the court deemed that you were a legal citizen to even sue somebody. Which happened, like Dred Scott. When he sued for his freedom, the Supreme Court deemed that he wasn't a citizen, so he couldn't sue for his freedom.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. The other dynamic that, and I still am gray on this. Okay, I got no rights. You tell me I can buy my freedom, and then 2 days later I give you this money, and then somebody else come pick me up and make me their slave. I mean, what? How did you got any idea of that dynamic?
Picking up like stealing, like abducting
stealing people and putting them in, that kind of thing.
When the Atlantic slave trade was abolished, that's when that got more popular, where the actual abducting of people, because it was still lucrative to abduct people and then sell them down the river down in Louisiana, which they sent most of them and sold them, because it was hard to obtain, so they just abducted free people off the streets.
Yeah. Now, can we say that his enslaver, who was his father, gave him some extra benefits? Kind of gave him a little, made him work in the house. Didn't mistreat him so badly like he might have of others. That kind of thing. Do you think?
Well, he was definitely a foreman in the fields. He was definitely a farmer. So with the skills that he learned afforded him the opportunity, once he got his freedom and purchased that land, to be a wonderful farmer. He named his farm Little Egypt. And one family says that when other people could not yield a bountiful crop, he had plenty. He gave people, made sure people had to eat, and people had to sell to sustain their families as well. But we also know that he was a conductor on Underground Railroad. So,
is that right?
so Little Egypt had a double meaning. Yeah, because you could get, we know if you could, freedom seekers could follow the Anacostia River, which is the headwaters of the actual Sandy Spring, which gives the community its name. And the headwaters of the Rock Creek is 6 miles west of Sandy Spring. Freedom seekers would follow those ways to get to Sandy Spring, because between the Quaker community and the free Black community, they would get, safety. And then the next stop would be Little Egypt. because he did business in Baltimore, so he could transport people.
Oh,
And you know, Frederick Douglass escaped from Baltimore.
yeah, right. Did he ever face uh any issues? You know, did they didn't burn a stake at him? They come looking for him one day and he had to flee and made it. Do you know of anything like that?
No, from what I understand, he was white and black revered him as a well-respected man within the community, a wonderful farmer. He was actually the largest black landowner and one of the wealthiest men in Montgomery County at the time of his death in 1895.
Okay, I don't mean no disrespect for this question. Could he have passed for white?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. When you come to the museum and you see his picture, as most people say, well, how was he a slave? He looks white. Like, so he does. He does. And most of his siblings also look white. And then we have, I believe, one that did pass, and we lost her in history. As far as trying to find her line.
Yeah, because that happens. Somebody says, "Hey, if I can take advantage of this, I'm gonna take advantage," and then they never come back around.
Right, and I always say my great grandmother, you see her show up in a census, and she changed her race, and I think it was to economic benefit. Sometimes you see her as white, sometimes she's listed as Negro, sometimes she's listed as mulatto. I think they took advantage of the time, the political climate, the economic climate of the time to their advantage. I would say so.
Would you want to meet the enslavers' descendants?
Oh, I have. We all went to high school together.
Really?
Oh, it's a small, tight-knit community. And so we all went to high school together. So my third great grandfather, his father was a Gaither. And if you're familiar with Gaithersburg, his father was Bill Gaither, whose brother was Benjamin Gaither, who Gaithersburg is named after. So we all know each other. But his mother was a Howard because her father was an enslaver, and his name was Howard. And they come from Howard County, which at the time was the Howard district of Anne Arundel County. Because all this, when she was born in 1797, there was no Montgomery County. Montgomery County hadn't been formed yet. So so I went to school with all my white Howard cousins and my white Gaither cousins. We all know who each other are.
Did you ever speak to them about it?
Not then when we're in school, but more so now. When they come to the museum, and I think now it's kind of like in vogue to be a relative to descendants of slaves.
Oh, really?
That's what I keep saying. I think it must be in vogue now because everybody wants everybody to know that they have either slave owning family members, or more importantly that they have relatives that were enslaved. So I think it's just the vogue thing to say now. I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay, we're gonna stay on this just a tad. We're gonna get to the museum. I promise you that. Well, what would have been your first question finding that out to them? You ask, you know what I mean? Okay, now I know you. So what was he like? Did he die of some travesty? You know what I mean? What would be the first question that somebody might ask, or did you ask?
I can't remember asking any particular question. I would say this. When I met one that I hadn't met before, she was in the museum and she was taking pictures of the family tree that's on the wall. And I said, I didn't know who she was. And I said, can I help you? Or are you doing research? She said, I never cared about my family history before. And one day I decided that I wanted to know more. And her mother gave her this plastic tub and said, go for it. And she realized that she tracked her fourth great grandfather, who was ended up being my great grandmother's father. And she said, I didn't know that I was going to find a Black family. And I said, we knew we'd find you. So we had a good laugh. But I just asked, why are you interested now? Because, at that time she was a, adult with grandchildren. Why are you interested now?
Yeah.
Why not before?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with this information?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Did it bring any resentment or animosity in your heart? Like, I don't want to meet you. I don't want to see you.
So
You know what I'm
not in
saying?
So
Yeah,
not, I would say not in my heart, because I think, all my life I went to school with everybody. I played sports in high school with everybody. Matter of fact, when I played soccer and basketball in high school, I was the only one on the team that looked like me. But when I invited her to the museum, because we had church at the museum, when I invited her to meet the family at the museum, it was, cousins and older cousins who went to segregated schools and taught in segregated schools. They weren't too happy about it. They weren't too happy about it. One person made a comment that, her mother would not have wanted to meet her. So
yeah,
I think
sure.
it depends
Sure.
on the generation.
Um, and then under the conditions that relationship was, he raped them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So do you say, hey, your dad, your great grandfather was a mean, nasty guy? You know what I mean? Or something like that for doing what he did.
Yeah, well, I never said that,
Yeah, but I
but I
mean,
know.
that's got to be a thought process.
Oh yeah, well, you got relationships that result of positions of power, obviously, where I'm sure when Polly was 16 years old, she didn't have a say on whether or not she was going to engage in a sexual relation and
Yeah,
then
right, right,
bear
right,
children, right?
right, right. Is there in that community lynching?
Not in our community. The closest lynching was, of course, Rockville, the county seat, where they hung people because that was the form of punishment at the time. But the lynchings of innocent Black men, there were 3 that happened in Poolesville, which is upper Montgomery County. And if you go across the bridge, you're in Leesburg, Virginia. So that's how far Poolesville is out of the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that area up there has been doing some atonement and reconciliation around that for about the last 4 years.
I didn't know until one day I was driving down the highway. I don't know where I was headed. That Maryland is below the Mason-Dixon line.
Mm-hmm.
Which the Mason-Dixon line? Do you know where that is? Where is that cut off?
So the Mason-Dixon line, it's kind of got distorted over history, but the Mason-Dixon line was a result of course, the surveyors Mason and Dixon, because Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Delaware were all fighting over Philadelphia. So the Mason-Dixon line is 15 miles south of the furthest most southern point of Philadelphia. So as far as being a division between North and South, that's not what it was intended to do originally. And then it kind of organically became the division of what people would say slave state versus free state. But due to the Missouri Compromise, I can't think of the parallel right now, but the parallel is the dividing line, which kind of goes through Maryland. It really isn't the Mason-Dixon line that divides North and South.
What got you to liking Black history like you do?
So I will say that I think I missed my calling. So I was not interested in when I was in high school. I knew my family history because I had no choice, because we had these huge family reunions between Maryland and Canada every 2 years, and we had to go back and forth to be able to know that history. But
let me stop you there. Let me stop you, because you had some family flee to Canada.
Yeah, so my 3rd great grandfather's sister, okay, this is a great story, so hold on to your seat.
Let's do it.
My 3rd great grandfather is named Enoch Howard, and his sister, Letha had 2 sons, William and Thomas. Now, I'm going to go back to Dred Scott. So, of course, when Dred Scott came to town to wait for his Supreme Court ruling, his attorney was Montgomery Blair. And Montgomery Blair was friends with the Quakers, so he brought Dred Scott to Sandy Spring, and Dred Scott stayed right down the street on Brook Road in the Black community, where about 2 houses down from where the museum is now. And of course, when things didn't go Dred Scott's way, William escaped. And
William is Dred Scott. Who was William?
So William was Letha's son.
Okay.
All right. And because Dred Scott actually stayed in the house that belonged to my 3rd great grandfather's son, John Henry. John Henry built the cabin, and that's where Dred Scott stayed. And so again, when Supreme Court said, no, Dred Scott, you're not getting your freedom because you're not a citizen, Then William escaped, and no one knew where William went to. But here comes Josiah Henson, who had been enslaved in Montgomery County and escaped, was already in Canada, formed a new community called Dawn. And Josiah Henson was making trips back and forth, helping other people escape. And apparently he met William. And when he came a trip down, he went to the family and let them know that he had met William, and where William was. So then the other son, Thomas, knew where to go. So the boys ended up in Hamilton, little area called Hamilton, Black community in Ontario. They ended up there together and formed families. And we have a huge Canadian family up there. They're called the Hollands. So we have a Howard Holland family reunion every 2 years, either here in Montgomery County or in Canada.
I love it. Is that, are you familiar with St. Catherine?
Yep. We've had family reunions in St. Catharines as well.
Now, because you got such all this rich history, and nothing, maybe some other people got stories that are not as rich. Let's say that. When you got a story like that, that makes you maybe proud to want to investigate. Is that the dynamic it made you say, I like what I got here. There.
Oh yeah, definitely want to know more. Definitely want to know more. Talk with the Canadian cousins all the time and looking at other people who came. For example, and I'm going to tell this quick story. There's another fella that left Sandy Spring named James Wesley Hill, and his nickname is Canada Jim. And he left Sandy Spring as well, ended up in Canada, and he made, now at the museum, we do not talk about Harriet Tubman at the museum. And people say, why? I say, because you know what? We tell the stories that people, especially school children, can make connections with places they can drive past, say, oh, that's where so-and-so lived. But James Wesley Hill, when he left Sandy Spring and ended up in Canada, he made several trips back. And he is accounted with over 900 people he helped escape and get to Canada.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, way more than Harriet Tubman. Little known story. We like to tell those stories because you know what? Those are the stories that children can understand, they connect with. Oh, this is history in my backyard. And Canada Jim, they have a school in Ontario named after him. In the Bronte area, it's called James Wesley Hill High School. And down here in Montgomery County, in the Black communities, they had camp meetings. I don't know if you're familiar with camp meetings up in Detroit.
Yeah, not really.
So you remember back in the day when enslaved people couldn't, enslaved people couldn't get together, so they got in hush harbors, right? And they fellowship, and they go down by the Babylon Brook because it made noise and people couldn't hear them, and they would, fellowship and sing songs. So it kind of went to these what we call camp meetings, and had campgrounds, and where Black people got together at least once a year, and people come from all over. I mean, as a kid, you look forward to going to camp meetings, but it was like a religious revival when I came along. But it was a place where people got together, and they had a song. I can't tell you the words, but part of it was like, Canada Jim's coming. Are you gonna be ready? And when Canada Jim came, you better be ready to go back with him, because he was taking people. So I'd say James Wesley Hill. So some of my relatives in Canada are also related to James Wesley Hill. So we are learning more history, making more connections, and trying to get more information so we can tell these stories accurately at the museum and put a full picture together. And we finally got a picture of what Canada Jim looked like. So he was part of our exhibit for Juneteenth.
When you maybe know this, when you flee to Canada, what route do you take from Sandy Springs to maybe?
So a lot of people went up through Pennsylvania, and I'll tell you, it's fascinating, all the little Black towns that popped up on the way north. They go up through, some people went through Ohio, some people went up through Pennsylvania. When we go, we try to follow the boys' routes where we think they would have taken, and they went through Buffalo and ended up in Ontario. There's been times where we've gone through Michigan. So it depends on the route we want to take at the time, but we would like to think that the boys went through Buffalo and crossed over. We're not really sure.
Yeah. But one more on that note, okay, so it's midnight, you in your cabin, they told you, the word got down that, hey, somebody's coming to help you escape. And so you run out of the cabin, run to some spot, start walking up the river or what have you. And unless you get on a horse or a buggy, you walk the whole way.
You walked the whole way, but they had to know those codes. They had to understand the codes. They had to understand, because a lot of it was what I would say hidden in plain sight, where people spoke to speak right in front of you. You didn't know what they were talking about. You knew what direction you wanted to go, because you know what, the North Star, the Big Dipper never moved. So you're gonna follow that drinking gourd. But like Enoch, wagons, you mentioned the Edmondson sisters for Escape on the Pearl, boats, because they were trying to get down the Potomac and go up the Chesapeake. Because when they get to the top of the Chesapeake, that's Cecil County, that's the upper shore, and Pennsylvania is like 5 minutes away. So it depends on the level of help you got. Well, especially with all the farmers in this area who went to Baltimore. Baltimore had the largest population of free blacks in the state of Maryland at the time.
Oh, really?
So
Now,
people
and you jamming on this, like I said, I'm gonna get to the museum, I promise. Well, so when do you, okay, you get to a free territory, why do you keep going all the way to Canada, what you think?
Fugitive Slave Act. Fugitive Slave Act made them go further. Fugitive Slave Act 1850 said you within the borders of this country, you can be returned. So they had to go to another country, and especially people enslaved down south, they weren't coming north. That was too far. They went to Mexico, they went to the islands, infused themselves with the native people, especially the Seminoles. You get the Black Seminoles when they went into Florida. Yeah. Especially Native Americans helped a lot of escaping enslaved people get freedom, and just by taking them into their tribes. They didn't mess with the slave owners didn't mess with the Native Americans, because they couldn't control them. They knew the land too well. So modes of transportation were very important, because you couldn't walk all the way.
You've been talking Black history a long time. How long is the before the museum? What did you do some Black history type talk or?
No, I went to undergrad. I went to undergrad. I played basketball at Bowie State University on a basketball scholarship. I was a physical education and health major, and then I went back to school. I started teaching and went back to school and got my master's in special education. Little teaching, hadn't given a thought of getting deep into Black history. Then I taught elementary school for 7 years, and then I went to a middle school, which was right here in my community. Taught there for 5 years. And then I actually went and started teaching and coaching basketball at the high school that I went to. And I was teaching one day, and some kids came down, because we had this teacher who was a white lady, and we wanted to get the African American Studies class going, and she wanted to teach it. And she thought she could teach it because she was married to a white man. I got no problem with that.
No, she wanted to teach because she's married to a Black man, you mean?
To a Black man, Sarah. Yeah, she's married to a Black man.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
So no, but nonetheless, she thought I knew enough just being married to this guy.
All right. So the first day, the kids came, and the kids were all in a tizzy. And I was like, what is wrong? They're like, Miss Williams, she told us all that we are descendants of slaves. Now, the majority of the kids in the class were African immigrant children. So they were in an uproar. So they went to administration, and then for the rest of the semester, she had to have guest speakers, and I was a guest speaker about 5 times in the class, dropping some history on it, because by that time, at least I knew my family history. I knew some things to connect, and I knew a lot of the Black history in Montgomery County. Like you talk about the Edmondson sisters, they were right here in Montgomery County. They were 5 minutes from the Slave Museum.
Okay, hold on. You saying something I don't know. You talk the Edmond sisters got something to do with them 70 slaves escaping? Is that?
They were, yes, right.
Because the lady doesn't say their name in this video.
Oh, Emily and Mary Edmondson is a wonderful story. So their father, and I'm going to get back to my story. We're going to segue.
Yeah.
So their father was free, and his name was Paul Edmondson. And if anybody in Montgomery County, DC area ever drive past a retirement community called Leisure World on Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring, Paul Edmondson owned all that land. There was a Black community. And when those girls, you said when they got on that boat called the Pearl, and there's a wonderful book called Escape on the Pearl.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
When they got on that boat in Georgetown, because the girls, at the waterfront, they were hired out to work in Georgetown. And they went down the Potomac with the idea that the boat was going to go up to Chesapeake. And like you said, that storm or whatever came up and they had to dock. Well, the posse was already on their trail and caught up with them. And they towed that boat back to DC and sold those girls down the river, which meant they got sold to then Louisiana. And they were sold as sex slaves. But a yellow fever outbreak happened. And while all that was going on, that man to sell his 40-acre farm at the time and everything he owned, all of his livestock, he still didn't have enough money to pay to get his daughters back. So he worked with Frederick Douglass. He worked with Harriet Beecher Stowe's brother to raise money to get his daughters back. And eventually he did. He was able to purchase those girls back. And then the Abolition Society sent them to Oberlin College in Ohio to go to school. And I believe Emily died. And then Mary ended up marrying a man from Sandy Spring named Larkin Johnson. They lived in Sandy Spring for about 12 years on a farm. And then they ended up going to DC. And guess who they lived next door to for the rest of her life? Frederick Douglass. They lived right next door to Frederick Douglass for the rest of her life.
Oh, very good story. So now you know all this, and then are you the co-founder of the museum?
No, I'm just co-director. The founder of the museum is Dr. Winston Anderson, and Dr. Anderson, wow, he's got a story. So Dr. Anderson is actually Jamaican born. He says when he was 15, his mother gave him $50 and told him to go to the States. And when he came to the United States, he enrolled at Howard University. And he was a zoology major. He attended, I believe, Brown University. But he came back to Howard to teach. And he was the head of the zoology department. And he did research in DNA. And he worked with anthropologist Fatima Jackson, who, if anybody remembers the unearthed African burial ground in New York City,
yeah,
she had the rights to that dig. So he did work with her in DNA research. And he heard about Sandy Spring. And he couldn't believe that there was a community of free Black people 30 plus years before emancipation, which didn't free anybody in Maryland anyway.
Yeah.
So he came to Sandy Spring, met the people on Brook Road, and bought that 1 acre land and decided to start a museum. And as his daughter says, all his travels to Africa and around the African diaspora, he had so much stuff that he collected in their house. The collection came before the museum. He had stuff to even to say, here's some artifacts. He got the museum going, and what he didn't have, he built.
And the name of the museum is what now?
Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery.
Let me ask you this. I say slave in all my discussion because I got a hard problem saying enslave, and people don't like me for that. You know what I mean? Do people say something about you saying slave instead of saying enslave?
So when we teach at the museum, when we talk about the condition of people, we say enslaved. As far as saying the word slave, we don't refer to a person because that dehumanizes, right? So we do try to rehumanize people at the museum. So we refer to the enslaved, their condition, and what we are trying to do is talk about who they may have been and what they may have represented in their communities that they were taken away from.
How did you get involved with the museum after the story with the school and that kind of thing?
Oh, the story with the school got better. So the second part of the story with the school was I had kids then coming like a year later saying, I'm gonna be late to basketball practice because I have to go to, or I won't make it because I have to get to DC or Baltimore because of this project I have to do for school. So I was like, tell me about this project. So the 10th grade English curriculum has a project called Monuments, Mysteries, and Museums. And the students have to go to someplace interview somebody who works there, do this whole presentation, and show their video. I'm like, hold up. So I went to the 10th grade English team and I said, kids were telling me about this project. And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, let me tell you something. All this history, they can walk out the front door of the school and be at the Sandy Spring Museum. They can go behind the school through the field and be at the Sandy Spring, or be at the original Quaker meeting house that was built in 1700s, or it could be here. And they were like, what? I said, for you not to know the history of the community that you work in is academic negligence. So then that made me say, now let me shut up and put my money where my mouth is and go do something about it myself. So then that prompted me to get involved with the museum and start working to volunteer. So I've been volunteering in the museum for 20 years. That's
Really? I love it.
Oh yeah. And then Dr. Anderson's like, look, I need you to be the director, because just because we're like, look, we want to build an educational program. This is a gold mine. It's not a place where people should just come and look at artifacts, but it should be an educational research facility. So that's what we're working on, transforming it to. So now we do corporate presentations. We do DEI training. Matter of fact, next Friday we're doing a DEI training for the Environmental Protection Agency. So we transform. We have transformed the museum. I'm not coming here and telling you that that's this and that's that. It's about the story, about the people who they were. It's about the story of the collection, the story, artifacts, but using the collection to teach. Just the history. So that's how I got involved in the museum. Just,
I love it.
I was like, oh, this is killing me. As an educator, this is killing me. So Dr. Anderson started pushing me a little bit more. I went to school and I got my second master's in school administration, because I'm assistant principal at a high school here in Montgomery County. And then I went back to school and got a third master's in equity education. And he kept pushing me. He said, you don't need another master's. So I am currently working on my doctoral program in educational leadership.
Oh, shaka-laka, everybody. Oh.
So that prompted,
you're the smartest person I know.
Oh yeah, as I said, I need a co-director. I cannot, I gotta make sure that the museum's okay. And
Yes.
so yeah, I have a co-director now as I'm, taking the next journey. And so yeah, so everything I do is for the benefit of the museum. And like I said, the museum is 100% volunteer run. It's just a labor of love.
I see. Now, go back a couple of things. That he started museum. What years is considered the founding?
1988.
And the room that you're in now, I see stuff, is what?
Oh yeah, this is my virtual background. This is I'm actually sitting home. This is the achievement room. And when I go in there with people, I say from the slave ship to the spaceship and on to the White House, and every contribution and achievement in between.
The building that the museum sits in is what? You might have alluded to that earlier, but what is it?
So the main building is called the Great Hall. And in the Great Hall, when you first come in, you will enter into the sanctuary, because we have pre-COVID, we had a functioning church at the museum, very small, very intimate, but it was a functioning church. And the reason why Dr. Anderson wanted to put a church in the museum to show how important the church is to the Black community.
I love it. I love it. You said the museum is on what street? That is the famous street there in Sandy Springs, right?
On Brook Road. And Brook Road is called Brook Road because the first plantation, the owner was James Brooke.
Oh,
Quaker.
okay. Do you all have a particular other exhibits that you showed? Some of the unique things that you show people there.
Oh yeah, so there's so much stuff in the museum.
Okay.
So when you walk into the Building of America, which is adjacent to the sanctuary, we call it the Building of America because we like to show the tools, trades, and toils, agriculture that built America on the backs of slave labor. Meaning we have everything from what you may have experienced if someone was working in a house, domestic, to field. We have cotton. We have sugarcane, we have tobacco and corn. What we do need to get is some Carolina gold. And I keep getting people like, what's that? I'm like, rice. So because rice was a big staple. But yeah, we like to show and be able to teach what people were doing.
Okay.
And yeah,
That
and
that that doing this every day as we kind of come to close. Do you get depressed talking about history, or because you can take a good angle on it? You know what I mean? Especially I'm talking
depressed.
about Black history and
No, you know what? The opposite. I get elated. I get excited, and a guided tour takes about an hour and a half. And I could talk all day. It's kind of like depressing when the tour is over, and you have to stop talking because it's so much, and you can go down so many rabbit holes of history. And it's kind of like give them the meat, because what we do try to tell people is no person and no place can tell the complete history. And
yeah,
and
sure,
and,
sure, sure,
and the
sure.
telling of the history, I mean, the work will never be done. There's just so much lost history, so much history to be preserved if we can find it, get people to tell it. It's still sometimes hard to get people to want to share their oral history, their family history. And we're working hard. We have a partnership with American University to collect as many oral histories as we can to preserve. And sometimes it's difficult to get people to open up, but
Yeah, sure.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's why I said I miss my calling. Why wasn't I a history major?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What would you like to learn? That maybe
Oh,
you're working on, or just down the road would like to say, I would like to learn this that has happened here. Otherwise,
what I really would like to do, and one of the things I want to start on is two things. One, more about the Black communities in Montgomery County. I know about them because my parents grew up in segregated schools, so everybody went to one high school, so they knew each other. And then, every Black community had a baseball team, so you went around to these places, and most of them don't exist anymore. Because of gentrification, they're gone, and the communities are developed. Or if you ever go to Montgomery Mall, that was all part of a Black community. I would like to know more about the Black communities.
yeah.
I also would love to be able to work on just the social justice of the reconciliation and healing, to work on that piece with some of the communities and people within the Black communities as well.
Do you try to do things to put up historical markers?
So we've been working with the Montgomery County on identifying places and making sure like street names are equitable. They changed the Montrose Parkway to Josiah Henson Parkway, giving some homage to significant African Americans within the community.
Sure.
And we put in panels, we call them panels, at the museum on our front lawn. So you drive past, you see these panels, because like I said, as our community is changing, people are moving in, and very quickly they'll think that we moved into their community. I'm like, no, you moved into ours.
That's
So
right.
like the community center across the street, it's a community center to most people. It's named after Ross Body. Most people don't know that, one, it used to be the Black elementary school, and two, Ross Body was the principal there who got demoted when integration happened. So we got to make sure that we tell our own history, because when you ever heard of the African proverb? It's something like, "Until the lion tells the story of the hunt, the hunt will always be glorified by the hunter."
That's right. That's right.
But we got to tell our own history
That's
and not
right. I
wait for
love
somebody else to tell it.
it.
Yep.
Are you an activist?
I've never seen myself as an activist. I've always seen myself as a little meek and quiet and sit back and observe. But I've been a little bit more outspoken now. So when because as an educator, I have to be. I work at a Black and brown school. My school is 72% Black and brown in Montgomery County.
Okay.
And I have to be, because the staff does not look like the children.
Okay.
So,
You
I can't be
activate at the
quiet.
workplace. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I see an injustice or I hear injustice, if I sit quiet, then I'm allowing it. So I speak
Yes.
up.
Yes. Yes.
And,
I got you.
and sometimes
What
when you speak,
do you all have a gala or something like that? Give us the website and how people can support the museum.
So the website is sandyspringsslavemuseum.org. And you can go on the website, there's a donate button, or you can come in and visit and leave a donation.
Yeah.
Another way you can donate is your time. We're 100% volunteer run, and we're getting old. So,
Yeah.
we volunteer your time, because, as we write grants, we can get grants, matching funds by using in kind. But, volunteer hours are transferred to money.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, time, yes, time is so valuable. I mean, you would love people's time.
I know we covered a lot, Jesse, and I do this all the time. Is there a question that I have not asked you? Something that comes to mind that you said, oh man, I got to get this out. Have you written a book or anything like that yourself? Anything like that?
I have not written a book, but I have worked on, actually created games, which we're working on for the museum, to getting these games copywritten so that they could be, we can sell them to make money for the museum. We made an Underground Railroad game. It's Pursuit of Freedom, leaving from right here in Sandy Spring to get to Philadelphia. And we have also created a social justice equity game that I actually used on my leadership team last week, and they loved it. And it was opportunities to learn. So we've been doing some work with my co-director, Troy Body. Troy just retired, and he was the inspiration for the game. And he was the head of the equity office for Montgomery County Public Schools. So Troy's the inspiration for the game, and I tried it out on my equity team, my leadership team, to see how they would receive it, and they absolutely loved it.
I love it. So give us the website once again, and that kind of thing.
SandySpringsSlaveMuseum.org.
Is there, last question, is there a mantra, motto that you live by?
Oh goodness, probably so many. But like I said, as an educator, I say it again, and when the superintendent of schools and her executive staff came, I said the same thing. If you don't know the history of the community that you live and work in, that's negligence. I'm sorry.
There it is. Everybody, this is the smartest lady I on the channel. Boy, oh boy. She was hooping and studying at the same time, scoring, throwing elbows on people and all that kind of stuff, and knocking jumpers down and all that, and studying. And then all this came out in another way. And so you have kind of found your calling.
I have it, and I've told my school that they got me for 5 more years, and I'm retiring, and they'll know where to find me. I will be at the museum.
Man.
Yep.
Everybody hit the subscribe. Go ahead. You got another comment?
No, I was about to say, the museum is why I'm looking forward to retirement. Other than that, I probably will work another 10 years. I love what I do. I love working at the school with the children. They give me my energy, but the museum needs full-time help.
Yeah, sure. Everybody hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. And if there was a love button, hit that, but we don't have, it's only like. So hit the like button on this video. I know you enjoyed it. Hit the notifications bell, tell somebody about Strong Inspirations. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't do that. That's not right. I think you'll be blessed if you share this with somebody. How about that? And I can't make that call. That ain't my call to make, but nonetheless, just think about it in that regard. And to you, I say this, and I mean this with all sincerity, and I really mean this. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love how you have transformed who you are. It was always inside of you because you had that from back 3-4 generations ago. Somehow it happened in your family. Your people, your grandfather or something like that took advantage of the opportunity and made something of it and passed that energy down the generations. Mm-hmm. And it moved you to be where you are. And the people in your family who also help participate in their own ways, it moved them to be where they are.
Right. And I have to say, this is why I picked this background tonight, the achievement room, because a lot of times we don't get to hear the stories of achievement.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Very good choice. all them degrees. You make good choices.
Oh, and can I also
You
throw
can
out
also do whatever you want to do.
a pyramid to my sisters in Delta Sigma Theta
Oh, I
Sorority
love it.
Incorporated.
Yes, there you go. Because I'm in that black and gold. You know that black and
I
gold.
know.
Gold.
And let me tell you, one of the founding members of Delta Sigma Theta is my great aunt. But I love it.
And you can't have no more good history and all that good stuff, boy. That's some stuff that came down. I thank you for coming on the channel. I'll stay in contact. Everybody go in and hit that website, throw them some money so they can do some more.
Yep.
Because you see the leadership, you see the dedication. So go on and do that. Y'all got a dinner or a dance or something that y'all like, the big fundraiser by chance?
Yeah, we're gonna have one come out. We do a big fundraiser as a mailing, but we're gonna have a look out for our Emancipation Day celebration, which is gonna be, you know, Maryland Emancipation Day is November 1st, but we're gonna celebrate on Saturday, November 5th at the museum with an open house.
So you all consider November 1st different than Juneteenth in your area?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, because see, a lot of people, we all say Juneteenth, and we all think that's across the country, but that is not really across the country.
So no, it's not across. We celebrate Juneteenth as well. We had a huge Juneteenth event, but we also have to celebrate Maryland Emancipation Day. When, you know, in our community, we were already free 30 plus years before, but the rest of the state was not free until Maryland ratified its constitution on November 1st, 1864.
I love it.
So we have to celebrate our brothers and sisters that were freed in Maryland later than my community was. That's right.
That's right. Hey, everybody. With that, I'll say bye-bye. We out. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too. Appreciate it.